Hi, Steffi here from The Makers. Welcome to our pre-recorded live stream today because I'm not around to actually do this live. But nonetheless, we're going to have some fun making a ginormous Christmas pudding. And it's a great way of getting rid of all of your sort of I don't know, leftover wool bits and pieces, and also to learn how to make a big shape quickly, and that's what today is all about. Of course, I can't say hello to anybody who is here today because it's all different. So I'm going to tell you straight away what today's question is for the giveaway, and that is somewhere here. It's gone. Okay, what's our... Oh yes, here we go. Right, this is what I want you to think about and what I want you to share with us. And we would like to know, making a Christmas pudding is a tradition for many. What are your favorite holiday traditions? So we need to know, what are your favorite we know what Alicia means, holiday traditions. Let us know what that is. Apologies about the spelling mistake, but you know what we're talking about. Okay, so basically, what I want to show you is how to build a core really quick. And for this, we all have them, lots and lots of wool ends, bits and pieces that are just floating about. Now and then I dip into them, but it's more for fine detail rather than I don't know, some of it feels a little bit felted, it's quite stiff already, and some of it is contaminated fiber, it's got lots of Angelina fiber in it. So I'm going to show you how to build a quick big shape that you then just have to color in. And the for this you will also need some woolen yarn. I have got a leftover yarn from when I used to crochet slippers, so there's quite a collection here. It's important that you use wool rather than cotton. Cotton is very harsh, and if you hit that with your needle, it will break your needle. So start small, like always, don't rush things. You can also use things like such as artificial pillow stuffing, you know, the stuff that goes inside your pillows. You can use that. You can also use wadding. I've used a synthetic wadding before to make a shape grow really quick. If you've ever met Brian the goose, our needle felted goose, then you know maybe a little bit about him, because he is actually featured as I think it's a blog on our website. So if you want to see how he was born, hop over there. But I've used wadding to build up a quick shape, especially if you wrap it around wire armature. But for the Christmas pudding, we want to keep it nice and round. You will also need some water-soluble paper, which I'm using to make the holly leaves. You will also need some green and some red, which I've got here. And if you've got any multi-tools, let's put them to the test, which ones work best for a ginormous make. And of course, you can put a penny inside your Christmas pudding. In fact, I think there is one in there. I've forgotten. It's been made such a long time ago. I don't know. Definitely can't feel it, but maybe not. I can't remember. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh yes, in answer to the question, Christmas traditions. Well, I've grown up in Germany and we certainly didn't make Christmas puddings. I never even knew about them until I moved to the UK. But one of the big Christmas traditions is, of course, that we celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. That's our main sort of gift-giving occasion. And I have fond memories with my family when I was a child at home. We always had fondue in the evening, and not fancy chocolate or cheese fondue, just ordinary, like dip the meat into the we didn't even use oil. We used I think my family were way too health conscious. We used stock, hot stock, meat stock or vegetable stock, but it was all the little bits and pieces around it, and it took ages to do it. I just loved that sort of long eating session where you would just eat very little but for a very long time. That was right up my street. So that's I have a very fond memory of that. And then there's another Christmas tradition which I don't know if anybody is familiar with. Well, actually it's more like an after Christmas tradition for New Year's Eve. The I would say that almost 100% of the population of Germany, I don't know if it's still the case, but certainly when I was a child, we would sit down and watch Dinner for One, which of course is in English, but it's not at all. It's one of those things when some things, even though they're not in the language, they work better for other nationalities, if that makes sense. So we would watch Dinner for One. Look it up if you don't know what it is. But in any case, we're here to make a pudding. So the first thing I want to do is I'm gonna start building a shape up by just rolling it up. That's what I'm doing, and I will go to the overhead camera so you can see it over. You can see it a little bit closer up as well. So I'm not needle felting this at all. I'm literally just winding it in. It's a big lump of wool there. This is all sort of bitty wool that is kind of, I don't want to use it for needle felting anymore. And this is really, I'm really tightly winding this in as tight as I can. And when it gets to a point where you can't manage it, instead of needle felting, what you're going to do is you're going to tie it together with some yarn. So find the end of that and begin tightening it. So you're literally rolling it up into a little fat ball. And then you continue. You'll be surprised how much wool it takes. You really will be. So don't use your best wool on this, because you'll have to put an order in with us straight away after that again. Sometimes it works better to actually just cut it. Doesn't matter. It's now tied together. So don't worry too much about you know, having to secure the yarn. It's absolutely fine. And then you're gonna work on it some more. Just bear with me, I just have to do something. Okay, here we go. So it's important that you do this in a neat fashion. So make sure you've got both your hands available and keep wrapping the wool around it. Bigger pieces are better pieces usually, because you can get them around, especially as you grow the shape. If you've got bigger pieces, then that's definitely preferable. And if you've got some wool tops that you don't use for needle felting, then get rid of them that way. I've got some pre-felt here, can use that as well. That will tie it up nicely. I've literally just pulled out of the bag what I had in there. And so you're making, basically, you're making a big round shape. And at some point, again, you will find this a little bit unmanageable. It's nice and firm. Then just take some more yarn, wrap it around it, and continue building that ball that you're making here. Get your hands free again, looking for bigger pieces now. Can go around. That's a big piece here. So just teasing them out. It really isn't about looks. This is not about looks in the slightest bit. It's just about making a nice firm core. You could even use sort of like a woolly jumper, cut it up, put it into strips, tighten it. It doesn't really matter what you use, as long as it's not too hard for the needle to go in. Other than that's the only criteria. And longer fiber wools work better than shorter fiber, especially when you get to that bigger stage, because you need to be able to wrap the wool around it to build the bulk. So instead of needle felting, I'm literally just wrapping it. Another layer of yarn. Get that all bundled up. I should have brought the scales over just to see how much this has actually gone away when I'm done with it. So now I'm going to sort through my wool bits a bit better, because I do want longer strands that fit around it. Sort them out. I've got more. Couldn't fit any more on the table, but I do have more. I'll use that. There's some more. Right, let's get these on. and then look for more. So it's a consistent, just folding the wool over it, getting it to build the bulk, and when it gets too unmanageable, as it will get very quickly unmanageable because it's becoming bigger and bigger, you need to wind the wool and keep it in place that way. So use a yarn maybe that you don't need anymore. I have actually got a bit of red here, a bit of red wool top, which is quite felted, so I could use that as well. Some more white. Picking the bigger pieces now of my wool stash here. Well, more of the wool bits and pieces that are I'm not going to use anymore. So let's try that red and build bulk with that as well. So by the time you've built the shape, you only will want to add the layers over the top to cover the surface rather than making it bigger. So the final layer of the brown and then the white topping, whilst you still need to use quite a lot of wool because it's a big surface, you're not going to have need to put a lot of bulk on it. So in comparison, the wool is a lot less. The bits I'm using now is actually the basic core wool that I've sort of got kicking around in the bag. Stretching that out, wrapping that around. So it does get quite unmanageable at some point. Big hands work. I've got big hands, so that's good. And then use some more yarn to secure it again. And that is basically the whole procession. Process. Because at some point it becomes so unmanageable that you might have to stop unless you've got bigger wool pieces. I am going to tie this up now just because I found two ends here. So if I stab into this with my needle now, nothing is going to hurt the needle. It's all soft wool, except that it is actually quite firm, and I don't even think we're halfway there yet to make the ginormous size of the one that I have got here already. Right, I'm going to use some of this. That is probably something that I would use still for needle felting, but it's going to be sacrificed. Like I say, longer strands are better. Got some here, and I might have to go looking for some more because this is definitely taking up a lot of wool. Right. Another layer going on, and I might stop at that size because I've got to felt all the surface on it as well, and I don't want to finish this within the time that I normally finish my live streams. Here we go. Put this on as well, and I'm going to wrap another round of yarn over the top. There. You might also find that at some point, because you're not overlaying the wool evenly everywhere, you might want to just put batches on, so to get it to a nice, more even size. So I noticed that there's a bit missing here, and so I could just lay on some wool and straight away tie it down. Like this. A lot is, so instead of felting it down and squishing the air out, you're actually achieving this by wrapping the wool around it. It's not just Christmas puddings you can do it like this. I know we've gone past the pumpkin stage, but you can do this also with other round shapes, obviously, and not even just round shapes, any kind of shapes, to be honest. What have I got down here? Ooh, let's use some of this. That almost looks too nice to put on, but I'm going to put it on just to build a bit bulk a little bit faster. And the yarn that I'm using, you can use synthetic yarn, but I happen to be using natural yarn. I think it's wool. Might be alpaca, I'm not sure. And wrap that up again. So probably sort through your wool, use all the little bits of smaller pieces for the inside, and then as you work your way around the outside and it gets bigger and bigger, then keep the larger sheets for the outside. But it's definitely a good way of getting rid of some of your wool tops as well that you might not want anymore. And definitely consider using jumpers on the core on the inside as well. So I'm going to stop at that shape now and just tie that up, and I'm just going to get rid of all the rest of the wool back into my bag until another time when I can use more to make another pudding or whatever. So now what we need to do is we need to color it in with the right colors, and for this I have got a bag full of what did I actually bring? I brought Portuguese merino and Cape merino, so two really short fibered wool bats, but I love the Cape merino because it's got that really soft fluffy look, and the I like the Portuguese merino. It's cheaper, it's a natural color, but it also has that real nice rich chocolate look, like you imagine maybe a Christmas pudding to look like. So I'm just going to show you this on the large screen. There we go. It's not quite as big as this one, but it's definitely a runner-up for the size. It's definitely the second largest pudding I've ever made, and it's really firm. I mean, to needle felt this down would have taken me absolutely ages. So I'm quite happy that it's a good size, and now I can begin working on it with the felting. So now the next bit is, because you want to keep it nice and you don't want it to look nice, you're going to have to be a bit more careful, not just slap it on like I did, but overlay it with wool. And I'm going to go straight onto a multi-tool. I've got a 3 needle felting tool here. It's going to be a lot of stabbing, I can tell you that for nothing. But because you've used a wool yarn inside and you haven't got any harsh fibers in your core, the needle will be quite happy to stab into all of it. So it shouldn't affect your needle at all. And I'm going to try different tools now. So I've got the clover tool. Now the clover tool, as you might know, has got this contraption that comes off, and that's quite good because you can actually go a little bit further into the shape. Saying that, I've wound it up so tightly that the needles don't want to sink in all that way. At the moment, I'm not concerned about the marks that it leaves. I just want to get the wool on, and I'm testing different multi-tools now, especially the ones that are for large shapes. This always frightens the hell out of me. I always imagine if anybody stabs themselves. I'm more frightened for other people than for myself. But it is hard work to push that in. I'm not going to deny it. It is hard work. So this is probably not my favorite, I will be honest. I'm going to try the Prim needle felting tool, because that, let's take that out, close that properly, put that back in. I've loaded this up with mostly twisted needles. I don't know why I did that at the time, but ooh, I like that. Haha. That's definitely a good one. So this Prim tool comes without needles and you have to load it up yourself. This is definitely so far my favorite one. It does the best work on getting the wool down. Really feels like it's felting it down properly. And I'm going to decide in a minute where the top is, because I don't need to cover the top in brown. It just takes longer to cover the brown up again. So at this stage I can also really shape it still by stabbing into it. So just going to give that a bit more. I really this is definitely my favorite. This is the most effective stabbing into the wool. It's leaving the least sort of pock marks, and it's definitely felting this wool down beautifully. So number one, definitely number one so far. Let's have a look what else I've got floating around. I've got my 5 needle clover tool. Now I like this, but I think that is probably more to finish it off at the end when you want the surface to be smoother. It isn't doing so much in felting the wool down. It puts it down, but it doesn't feel very much felted down. Whereas if I go with this is really felting it down. It's hard on your arm because you do work hard by stabbing this, but the needles go in really easily compared to this one. It's almost bouncing off that tool, so I'm not at all in favor of that one. You can use different tools as well, and I did bring the my next favorite tool that I've been using a lot, which is this one here that holds 6 needles, but I've got it loaded up with 3. So I probably will just try and put another, let's close this up so don't have to have both ends on. So if you haven't tried this one yet, which is the 6 needle felting tool, I like it because it has got a metal case, so there's no plastic with the exception of that little insert where the needles go. Don't lose that little disc, that's very important. And I'm going to put, what's that? I have already got 2 fine and 1 medium in there. I'm going to put out, that went straight in my finger. I'm going, no, that's bent. I'm going to put, that's also bent. What am I going to put in there? Let's see what else I've got knocking around. I'm going to put another medium in there. So our mediums are orange. Why is that not going in? Let's try that. There. Needs a little bit of a push at the end, and so that's number 4 in there now. I don't actually know what that is, so I'm not going to put that in. What's that? I think that's another medium. So that is number 5, and then I just need to put 1 more in, and I might. So you can have different needles in these tools, of course. You don't have to stick to one specific needle. Just trying to find one. I don't know what it is. There's another medium. Okay, so I've got 4 mediums and 2 fine in there now. Put that disc back in the lid. That's where it belongs. And then put that in. Oh no, I can't do that. One of the needles is longer. That won't do. They all obviously have to be the same length. So that must be a basic needle that I've just put in there. So I'm going to put, I don't want to put an extra fine in there. So I've got so many needles here. Some of them I don't know what they are because they haven't been marked. That's better. Right, I've got definitely only got fine and medium needles in there. Make them all point in the right way so that the lid fits. Disc is inside. Screw the cap back on, and let's try that. 6 needles in there. I usually only use 3 with most of the needle felting that I'm doing, but I've got 6 needle in there now. That's not bad actually. I don't think I like it as much as the prim, but it covers a smaller surface, so therefore it's a little bit more precise. Maybe later if I add the leaves and they have to be felted down, the holly leaves, then I think this is probably, let's just try a direct comparison. Yeah, this just covers a larger surface. The needles still go in a little bit further. They're further apart, which is probably the reason. I'm not even going to bother using the 7 needle felting tool on here. I know it won't work. It's not the, I just show it to you. it's not even going in. It's just hopping on the surface. Right, so that's been established. Of course, you can use your single needle as well. Nothing wrong with that. It will just take a long time. And if you are a subscriber, this is the time to stock up on tools, because you are eligible for a huge discount at the moment, 20% off to all of our subscribers on all tools. So something you should make use of. And we are currently waiting on a new non-branded version of this tool. This is a clover tool, but we're getting a non-branded one in a paler pink and in a blue, and it will definitely look different to the other blue 3-needle tools that we have got. So I'm thinking that would be hopefully that will come within this month, and then we will put them online, and then you can buy them with your 20% off discount. Stock up on your needles. Have every 3-needle tool, maybe with different types of needles. Now you can tell them apart as well, because the tool itself will be a different color. So what's not to love about any of that? And I'm going from one to the other, from one to the other. I'm going to put the ones away I really do not want to use. Not this one. That's not happening. I've also got one of these. I think we used to sell these. That's got... It's just what I don't like about it. I don't like to be so far away from my work. Just feels like I'm on stilts. My hands are on stilts. It does work, but it's not my favorite. I'm going back to the prim one, which is this one, and I'm going to the 6-needle felting tool with medium and fine needles in it. So this one that I'm using right now comes with medium needles. This is definitely a workout, I can tell you that. It's rock solid as well, so there's not much give in it. Now, of course, I'm also using a very short fibered wool here at the moment, the Portuguese Merino. It's short and fine fibered, so that will also affect how the tools work. So if you're using a coarser wool, you might find that some of the other tools will work better. Well, I'm just going to share this with you on the large screen. Okay, this is how far I've got. Yeah, I think this is going to be the top, and I'm working my way around that that part down here. But whilst I'm letting my arms recover from all this vigorous stabbing and trying out different tools, I'm going to tell you a little bit more what's happening over the next few weeks. So the next live stream is coming up. Next week on the 15th of November will be the Holly Fairy. That, of course, is our fairy subscription box of November. So if you've got the box, then felt along, why not? If you haven't got it, you might learn something new. If you like the look of our little reindeer, then you've got time to get yourself a kit. We do sell that as a small kit, and the live stream to make that one with me is on Tuesday the 22nd of November. All of this is of course at 1 o'clock. Remember, we're now in GMT, no longer British Summer Time, so make sure if you're watching this from abroad to have the time comparison against GMT rather than BST. And would you believe it, on Tuesday the 29th of November we are already starting part 1 of the Advent Wreath week. I cannot believe it. And because on the 27th of November is the 1st of Advent. And then we're counting down 4 Sundays before we get to Christmas. Yeah, Christmas. That's it. Christmas is here. We've got lots of surprises up our sleeves for you all leading up to Christmas, so watch out for it. And if you have got our Advent calendar and our Advent wreath, then you can also enter our competition to win yourself a £50 gift voucher. How about that? That's definitely worth it. All you need to do is just go onto the Everyone a Maker group, but don't do it just yet because we haven't started the competition. But when it comes to starting the Advent wreath and opening the Advent calendar, then go onto the Everyone a Maker Facebook group. If you're not a member yet, do join it. We just ask you to only share makers related products and tutorials and kits and so on and so forth. Right, I'm gonna go do a bit more stabbing here now because my arm seems to have recovered. You don't have to do this in one sitting like I do. You can take your time. This is just me doing it all now. So I'm going to just stab into the base here a little bit because my pudding's not going to stand on that part if I don't flatten it down a little bit. So I am reshaping it a little. I probably should have maybe, no, that's all right. It looks a little bit, be fine once we put the top on. Right, adding a bit more here. I'm actually adding a little bit of bulk on that side because it is a little bit flat here. So felting that down, back with my prim tool. These large areas I definitely want to cover with a prim tool. Now this tool has also got a single needle, a hidden single needle in there. Don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's this one here. So you can take that out and use that as a single needle with a little holder. Pop it in there again. It also works without it in, but better with it in because that little button needs to fit into there. What I also like about the prim tool is that it's actually very secure. So when you put the lid on, where on earth have I put the lid? No idea. It was here. Oh no, I know. There's no lid. The lid's that, of course. That's it. You just turn it round and then shut it. Where's the lid? Honestly, the lid's there. It's like, where are my glasses on top of my head? Yes, so definitely still using this one because that seems to be making the biggest impact right now. Okay, almost at the point where I can start with the white. How exciting is that? I am stabbing quite hard because I'm shaping it. I need to just flatten that base a bit more so that it can stand nicely. And I'm actually going to take a bit of that brown off because that just makes it harder to put the white on top. So I've got most of it covered now, at least at the base. I've gone slightly over half because I want the white to overlap the brown, like oozing cream coming over the top. Or is it icing? I don't actually know. No, I don't actually know. Does anybody eat Christmas puddings that look like that? A Christmas pudding, isn't that normally the one that you eat with brandy cream or something like that? So it must be, I've definitely never had one with a holly leaf on top. This might just be me being extremely ignorant what I'm saying now, so I do apologize. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure that this doesn't sort of melt into it. We don't want it to be like that. We want it to be a crisp edge, almost like a sort of like a dollop of cream that's running down it. So I'm folding this in. This is the Cape Merino, the white Cape Merino. You can also use, I would definitely use a softer, finer wool. So you could also use the mouse white Australian Merino wool bats, all bats. I've just naturally gone to that 3 needle felting tool, but I'm not entirely sure about it. Let's go to this one. That's not doing it for me either. This one is again my favorite. So I'm felting on top of it, but I'm not felting into the edge. And this might be a single needle job in a minute. Let's see. So this one I've used here is the coarse twisted, but that's not working for me either. Let's try, that's not working. I'll tell you which needle will work for me, so just bear with me. Actually, this is the core twisted. The coarse twisted is not bad. So we want to give it that oozing edge. So you need to felt into that gap between the white and the brown to make it nice and runny. And then work your way around it. I think what I will do is in a minute use the 5 needle clover tool and try and get the pock marks out of here. It doesn't matter so much on the brown. For starters, you don't see it as much. But with the white, it does matter a little bit more, because that's not really what cream looks like. So I think that is probably where you would use your 5 needle felting tool. Once it's fastened on, you smooth it out by running that over it. Right, I'm just going to put the top on and then sort out the edges in a minute. Let's get all the hard work done here. Small batches is always better than piling it on. Keep your needles safe. If you break a needle in a big project like this, it's probably almost impossible to find it again. If that is the case, just make sure that you really keep that out of reach of children, or that it doesn't get handed around or played with in any way or form, because you want to make sure that the needle doesn't pop out at some point when you don't expect it. Needles sometimes have that habit to work themselves to the surface if it gets manhandled. Same with vegetable matter, but of course that doesn't matter so much. Vegetable matter, we also often hear it being called VM, is just basically, it's a posh name for bits of grass like that. So I normally don't pick them out. They just sort of work their way up. And if you look around here, I don't know if you can see this on my mat, there's lots of grassy bits. And so that's what happens. If you felt it down, they come to the surface and just fall off. So I normally don't bother picking them out. But as I've used quite a lot of core wool inside, especially the basic core wool, there's often VM in it. That's where you probably see the evidence of it on the mat here. Right, nearly done with that. I'm leaving the sides fluffy at the moment, because I'm going to work my way around it once I've covered the top up and covered all of the ugly core inside. That's all going to be gone in a minute. So I'll get this wool down here on the top. It's a lot of stubbing. It really will help your arm if you can use a multi-tool. But imagine giving somebody that for a Christmas present. I might have mentioned it before, but we've been to the Country Living Fair in London before, and we had the big pudding on display, and people wanted to buy it. They didn't care how much it was. They just wanted to buy it, and I basically said I'm not selling it, because I know I never have time to make another one. So I said, but you can make another one. So maybe you can just make lots and lots of Christmas puddings with cheap core inside, whatever you decide to put inside. Hopefully you can find something that's natural, so if it ever ends up in the bin, it doesn't impact the environment. Right, so now I've got to pull the bits on the side over the top, and I'm going to fold them in as I'm felting them down. And for this, I'm going to maybe use the 3 needle tool. No, I'm not. I'm going to use a single needle and just felt into it. So I don't want it to be a very even edge. Some of it can hang down a bit more. And where you can see still brown marks, I can cover it with more white wool. So that doesn't bother me too much at the moment either. I just want to make sure I'm getting this nice even edge. It's a nice fresh Christmas pudding. It was so overdue since the other one started to look a little bit well used, put it that way. And of course, let us know what you put inside, and I wonder what Christmas favorites you are telling us right now, whether this is here on YouTube or on Facebook. Please do give us the thumbs up, and if you feel generous on Facebook, give us a star, and here on YouTube you can also buy a badge and display the badge, and all of that helps us to keep the free live streams going for everybody. It's completely voluntary if you want to do this, if you feel generous today. And I should also just maybe go back to the big camera. So this is what it looks like now. I've got a lot of white on there. I need to felt it down a bit more. I've got floppy bits here, and I've got a bit more of white cover to complete here. And then I'm going to make 2 holly leaves and some berries that I'm going to felt onto the top. But if you are not aware of this, I will point this out gladly, that we are working yet again with a Cats Protection charity, and you can make a cat angel, and that would be nice. Another nice bit of Christmas decoration, and it's like this. It sits on top of a Christmas tree. It's hollow inside, but you can also have it sitting on the sideboard on a shelf. It doesn't even have to have wings if you don't fancy making wings, but it is a cat angel, and you have the choice of 6 different designs in 2 kits. So 1 kit makes 1 design, and it's basically a torty white and ginger cat in 1 kit box, so that makes 1 cat, or a tabby grey or black cat in the 2nd kit box. You have to choose, or you can do something in between. The live stream that I will be running to teach how to make the cats will be on the 26th of November from 10:30 until 12 p.m. and that is basically on the Craft for Cats Facebook group, which you will be able to join once you've bought your kit. You buy the kit directly from Cats Protection. The web address is www.cats.org.uk/wintercraft, or just Google Craft for Cats Winter Craft or Cats Protection Craft for Cats or something like that. It will probably come up. It's easier to either put in the URL directly or look for it on the internet rather than going via the Cats Protection website. That's what we found hard to then find it once you're on there. Anyway, that's a project that is currently in the making, and we would love for you to join us. So remember, it's that project on the 26th of November from 10:30 till 12, and it's £20. That's it. Right, let's work a little bit more on the pudding. My arm has recovered again. It's definitely a workout, I'm telling you now. I'm just stabbing here while whilst I can talk to you at the same time. So I wonder how many of you will be putting, is it a penny you put in there? I don't really know the full story other than sort of the bits and pieces. I don't know why that is, so maybe some of you can share that story, because not everybody will be familiar with it, depending on where you're watching from, because we have quite an international audience. So it is a very, I would say Christmas pudding, is that an American thing? I don't think it is, not entirely sure. So share with us what your favorite tradition is for Christmas and what you do wherever you live, or maybe you live in the UK but you have brought different traditions, as I have done. Saying that, we do sort of a mix between a German and an English Christmas or British Christmas. I think our children, they had once, they said, oh, why can't we have a normal Christmas like everybody in the UK? And I said, okay, so instead of Christmas Eve, we'll do presents on Christmas Day. And they all thought, oh, gotta wait longer. And they all said, no, it's fine, we'll stick with the German one. Which I thought was very funny. And now I wouldn't actually mind, to be honest. But when they were little, it was very special to do it the German way. And my husband was fine with that as well, even though that wasn't his tradition. It's also, I think I've probably mentioned this before, but in Germany it's not Father Christmas that comes on Christmas Eve. It's actually I can only translate it that it's the Christ child, and it's an angel. I've always imagined it was an angel that comes on and brings the Christmas presents. But I know that there are so for us, Father Christmas in many ways in Germany comes on the 6th of December, and that is Saint Nicholas. And in Germany you don't get a lot of presents, but I think in other parts of Europe that is a big celebration when Saint Nicholas comes. I think in the Netherlands it's quite big, so if anybody's watching from the Netherlands, do tell us what you do and when do you have your main Christmas. yeah, I find it fascinating how these things are different in different countries. And but then, you know, it makes sense. Father Christmas can't be in the same place all at once. Not these days even. Right, so I've now finished the top of the Christmas. I could work a little bit more on it. I could refine it a lot more, but I have just in the end worked with a single needle. I'm just going to see if I can smooth it out a bit more with my 5-needle clover tool. It definitely does smooth it out a bit more. It feels like it's felting it. It doesn't feel it's doing a huge amount of it. It's certainly not shaping it. It's just felting it probably down a little bit more. So what I need to do now is, and I'm going to do this freehand, I'm going to make 2 holly leaves with using water soluble paper, but I'm not going to dissolve the water soluble paper. So if you have got the holly fairy and you've got the template for the holly fairy skirt, then you can use that. If you have got the basic seasonal wreath pack, which is a new project. It's really, I haven't got anything to show visually, but by now you will have probably seen it on social media. It is such a fun wreath that you can personalize with your own ready-made creations, but you've got the perfect backdrop to do this. So right. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is if you've got that one, you've got holly leaf templates in there as well. But a holly leaf is easily drawn, and I'll show you how to do that now. So you do need some water soluble paper. I think I must have sneezed on mine. There's some holes in it. Yes, it's very, very soluble. So don't sneeze on it or have a spillage of any kind. It does disappear in front of your eyes. But a holly leaf is something like that. So you can literally draw it straight onto the paper, or you could draw it, if you're too nervous, draw it onto a piece of paper and with a pencil. That's a holly leaf as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to make 2 because that's definitely slightly bigger than the one that are probably in. Trying to avoid that hole. Fold that over a bit. So 2 holly leaves. Get that outline a bit stronger so you can see it better. I'm using a soft pencil. I'm even using a pencil that's a little bit blunt, because if you have a very sharp, hard pencil, it's sort of just, it's a horrible feeling, but it pulls at the water-soluble paper, and then I don't like it at all. So I much prefer using a soft pencil that you can really push down with, and then just cut these 2 so I can work on one at a time. And all you're going to do now is you're going to felt this down. Oh dear, my felting mats look a little bit dirty. You're going to use some green wool, and I'm absolutely loving this very soft moss mottled green, and it's an Australian merino. It's a very fine wool, but it's lovely to work with. And I'm using a single needle to start with, so I'm spilling slightly outside my holly leaf line, but I can just about sort of can see where it's going. I'm guessing where it's going roughly. I'm putting the needle down in that line like this, felt it down in the center a bit. You don't want to felt it too much because you're going to have to lift it off the mat in a minute. And now I'm going to follow that outline by folding the wool inwards. So folding the wool in, and in a minute I'm going to lift this off before it's attached to my felting mat. Getting these sharp points. Right, so now I'm going to lift it off because it will have, the fibers will have come through. Turn it over, felt it down a little bit more all over, and then I'm going to add the other half. And of course for this, your 5-needle felting tool, your clover 5-needle felting tool is wonderfully perfect to get this felted down quickly. Now this is where I would definitely recommend buying one of those. Love them. In comparison, the blue one, I can't even get it into this mat. However, if you do have a brush mat, which I had the other day, I think it fell down somewhere. Oh yes, here we go. If you have got a brush mat knocking around, then you can use it with this. So don't throw it away. It does work perfectly with that. I wouldn't buy it as an outlay. I would just get our earth-friendly felting mat and the clover tool. Does the same job, and the clover tool definitely is a little bit more sophisticated. The clover tool works on this as well, but I prefer it on our felting mat. And I'm using the firm side of our earth-friendly felting mat. If you've got our eco wool mat, that works perfectly with the clover tool as well. Right, let's do the other side, other end, and follow that line that you're guessing at the moment. I can just about see some of the line, so I'm following it as best as I can. It's 2 dips here. And here as well. And then neaten up that edge by folding the wool over and bring it to the inside of the leaf. And felt it down all over, and then remember to lift it off as soon as you can, because it does get felted onto the mat. And you're only felting this from one side. You're not felting this from 2 sides. So we use water-soluble paper for making flowers such as the poppy. And the poppy tutorial should be out by now as well, to make a poppy flower. And you can use it also for making butterflies. We've been using that in the summer. No, that's the wrong tool. See, it doesn't work. Just need to get that little pointy bit a bit more defined. I just love needle felting. It's just that. There's nothing more to say, really, is there? Look how easy you can do something completely off the top of your head. Just go for it. And don't be afraid, because you can always adjust it. Now you can dissolve this water-soluble paper and wait for the project to dry. The added advantage that has got is that it acts as a fabric stiffener. So if you wanted this holly leaf to be a particular shape, or wanted it to be a bit firmer, then do dissolve it. But I don't have the time to do that. I want to get it onto the pudding, because I've got to make a second one, and I've got to make some berries as well. A good test to check if the leaf or anything that you're making is sort of hold it up against the light, which I've just done, and it looks pretty good. So maybe a little bit more here, but then I think that is ready to be cut out of the paper. If you are dissolving it, then you still have to cut it out of the paper first. Oh, that's not my needle I was using. There it is. And then only dip it into the water very briefly. Don't need to wash it out like your life depends on it. Just dip it in water. The paper will dissolve, and then you've got to let it dry, and it becomes quite stiff, quite a stiff fabric. So if you want it to be slightly curved, then dry it in that position, maybe like this. Right, but this one here, first of all, needs to be cut out. That's also what you would do if you were to dissolve the water-soluble paper. I don't actually mind the paper in there. I often, if it sort of has a slightly wide edge, I always think that looks quite nice. Adds to it. Just another dimension. And I'm definitely cutting the edges crisp. So wherever you spilled over the edge, this is another chance of evening them out. You don't want the paper showing. So there's one holly leaf, the rest can go in the bin. And that's looking quite nice on there. You can add a little bit of a detail in the center if you want to. Sometimes it's enough just to run your needle through the center consistently. For this, you could also have one of your needle tools loaded up with just 2 needles, which I actually happen to have here. So that will help getting that groove done. It's actually almost a little bit too firm, that felting mat, so I would have to use the soft side. Let's try using just a single needle. Alternatively, you can add a little bit of, I don't know, if you've got a bit of brown wool left, or maybe mix the brown and the white just to get a lighter shade of it, or the white and the green, if you don't want to introduce another color, and just put that in the center. Let sort of a very faint vein run through it and felt it down, just as a bit of an added detail there, like that. Okay, I'm going to now do the second one exactly the same way. Lay out the wool over the leaf, sort of try and follow the outline as best as you can, remembering where it is, especially so where the pointy bits are, because that's where the wool will stay put. And then find that line and felt the wool down so that you've got a crisp edge. Remember that you need to lift off the leaf off the mat as soon as you can, so that it doesn't get fastened onto it. There is another way of making a nice thin piece of felt, like a leaf or something like that, by using the parchment paper technique. And for this, instead of felting straight onto the mat without water-soluble paper, you have a barrier. You put the greaseproof paper in between, and when you lift your work off, which you have to do regularly still, you lift off the parchment paper first, which will stop the wool from tearing apart. This is why part of why we're using the water-soluble paper is so that the wool actually makes a flat sheet. And if you use parchment paper, you can achieve the same thing. Obviously, you don't wash anything out. The parchment paper, you just perforate it until it falls apart, because you're repeatedly stabbing into it, and then you should be able to get a nice neat shape. The other method, where you can also use the parchment paper, is if you've got a biscuit cutter in the shape of a holly leaf, then you can use that too to make your shape. So you just fill the biscuit cutter with wool and cut around it exactly as the gingerbread tutorial that I've recently put on social media. So if you can find that again, then you're in business. So there's lots of ways of doing things. I mean, you could also just cut out felt sheets and have them hanging off the pudding. Doesn't have to be felted, needle felted. It could be, or you can wet felt it and then cut the shape out. Loads of ways. Or just felt a flat piece of a shapeless shape and then cut out. Wrong tool again. Cut out the shape afterwards. So lots of ways of doing this. There isn't a right or a wrong way. There are just multiple ways, and everybody's got their preference. This one is not as neat as the other one, so I'm going to neaten it up a little bit now. You can stab into the edges coming at a slight angle so that you get that, push the edge back a little bit, and you have a chance to get the pointy parts out better. And of course, add more wool if you need to. My arm is getting pretty tired again, so I wonder what wonderful memories of traditions you have got, or maybe what traditions you still uphold. I think Christmas is a magical time, because it's not just, for me, it's not about the presents. For me, it's about slowing down, and it's about I don't know, taking a breath and taking stock, and maybe just opening your heart that tiny little bit for other people, more than normal, obviously, because you're all doing it. Right, last bit of stabbing on that leaf, and then I'm going to cut the shape out, because I'm definitely getting tired arm syndrome. If I wore my Apple Watch on that hand, I would probably have achieved like maximum goal on working out. It always counts my calories when I'm knitting because I'm moving my left arm or my left hand more with the way that I knit or crochet. It's really funny. It's actually, I burn more calories apparently when I'm knitting. Not that I burn them, but it's nice to think I am. There we go. Right, that's now 2 leaves. I'm going to put another middle into this one. This time I'm just going to lighten up the green rather than putting brown with it. And you can use a different color green. I just haven't got one right now. Probably had one if I looked very hard. Let's put that in the center. Do this again. So the idea is that those holly leaves are not glued to the pudding, but that they are attached so that they slightly curved and sort of off. And I'm going to put these on the top now, whichever way, maybe that way. It seems a bit more natural. And they're definitely quite big, so you could get away with smaller leaves. I'm felting them down just at the top where they meet. What needle is this now? Now that you see, I've needle felted the holly leaves with this twisted coarse needle, and now putting it in the pudding, it does absolutely nothing. It certainly isn't fastening it on. So I'm going to resort to my 2 felting needles that are loaded into my tool here. That's still not very satisfying. I think sometimes you just have to try different needles. You know, people ask us, what do you use? What do you use? And sometimes I can be absolutely sure and I can say, this is what you use. Oh, that's a very fine needle. We don't want that. Let's try that. No, that's not working. That's a bit better. Right, I'm felting along just the top of the leaf because, as I say, you don't want them to be completely flattened onto the pudding. You want them to be slightly 3D off the pudding. So they're sort of flapping around here at the moment. Maybe they need to be a bit closer together like that. I think that's more natural. Right, I'm going to do that, change the positioning. Still not getting a lot of traction from that needle. See, and that is probably too much. Maybe not. Maybe if I had my 3 needles in there, would be perfect. Oh, what about the single needle in here? Let's try that. No. Just try the needles. Try them all. It's best way. There isn't one works for everything. Different needles work for different projects, but I'm quite happy with the shaping of this for now. Right, I'm going to show you this on the big camera. There you go. Pudding has got its leaves and now it's just missing the berries, and I'm going to do these momentarily. I will also just say that now is the time to get your robin from the Aardman robin needle felting kit. Remember, it is a Christmas story, perfect Christmas present, and the robin has a story to tell. I always think it's amazing when you make something and there's a story that comes with it. So don't forget Robin, from Robin, the Netflix animation that was made by Aardman. And yeah, we're very proud to be working with them. They're a great company. Okay, berries. I've got different reds here. In fact, I've got 3 different reds. I've got variegated, deep red variegated. I've got the red shimmer, and I've got just our usual poppy red. And I don't know. Might use a combination of all 3. But in any case, what you do is you roll the wool into. You basically wind it into a ball shape, and I do this as tightly as I can, by just winding it up and winding it up and winding it up until if I let go of it, it will pop open, and I just give it a few stabs so that I can now let go of it like this. Now I'm going to work on it a little bit all around to make it a little bit rounder than it looks when you just close the shape up. So this is where you have to watch your fingers, because there's not much place to put your fingers, and the needle can be quite vicious if you stab yourself. And what I really like is, and I've done that recently on another project on the seasonal basic wreath project, is adding a little bit of white on top of the berry. Now this could be for a reflection, shiny berry that reflects the light, or it could be that it's maybe a bit frosty, or maybe it's just got a bit of sugar on it. So I'm going to add a tiny amount of white on there. It just gives it a bit more of a realistic look. Tiny bit. Let that down very gently. At the time when you do it, you think, what the heck is this? This doesn't look right. But later on, when they're attached and they sit on the holly leaves, they look absolutely fine. Okay, one. Now, let's try a dark red. Roll the wool in. It's always better to start out small, because if you've got a small, there's a bit of grass there, a small berry, then you can always add a little bit more on the outside. But if you've made one too big, then you've got to felt it down massively, and if you can't get it to shrink enough, then you're going to have to make another one. There's not much you can do about it. So it's better to always have a little bit of a smaller shape and add more than go big, and then you're just struggling to get it right. Right, that's the deep red variegated. Love these variegated colors. We do a spiced wool mix. It has got all the variegated wools in there, and it is such a good wool mix for this time of the year. It just feels really warming. It looks warming. You can make some baubles from it and decorate it with contrasting colors. We've done this before, and then last year, I don't know if you remember, we did the acorns. This is slightly smaller, this berry, but that's fine. And then finally, I'm using the poppy red. So this pudding has got 3 different color red berries on there. Wind this up, stab it closed, and then you have to keep turning it to make sure that you're keeping it 3D. But this is definitely something where you have to watch what you're doing. Don't sit there with your 5th glass of wine that you've consumed and the needle goes all over the place, or if you're watching TV and there's a very breath-catching, no, that's not the word, breathtaking scene, and you can't take your eyes off the TV and you're stabbing away. This is when you stab yourself. So try and keep your eyes on your work. Don't do it when you're too tired either. I'm just going to add a bit of white on this one, and tiny amount of white on this one. And then I'm going to attach them to the pudding. Now the way you attach them is quite simply by laying them onto the pudding, and then instead of stabbing straight into it, which you don't want to do because you're going to flatten it, you're just going to stab around the edges where the red ball meets the green leaf, or even the white pudding, depending where you are, and just stuff the red fibers into the pudding. And that way you're maintaining that round shape, and you're getting the berry to fasten onto the pudding. Now, earlier I said that this needle doesn't do it for me as soon as I stab into the pudding, and I'm realizing that again now. I'm going to change to try a different needle. This is a coarser needle. I think it needs to be a really sort of quite coarse needle to go into that pudding, because you're sinking it in so deep. Another one here. I'm definitely liking this pudding better than the one that I made years ago, but it might just be because the other one looks a bit used. And then on this one as well. So that you still have got the chance to reduce the size of the berries if you wish. I don't need to do that here. And that, doesn't that look fantastic with a bit of white frosting on top, whatever that is. It might be just the reflection, or it might be a bit of sugar, or maybe it might be that the pudding's been out in the cold. There we go. Right, how about this? So this is what we started out with as a sample. And this is what we made. I much prefer this one. This one needs a bit of a facelift. It's got a lot of contamination on there. We tried some glitter on there before, so I think it definitely needs a bit of a stamp. Now this one is softer as well. This one's really solid. It's rock solid. It's a nice big pudding. They probably both weigh the same, I would have thought. Shall I weigh them? Shall I weigh them? Okay, I'm going to put something up for you to look at whilst I'm getting out of here. Let's look at the winter retreat. Remember, we are doing a winter retreat where you can come and join us to make a magical, mystical, even a mysterious horse. And it's all inclusive, all the materials, all the food, accommodation as well. The only snag is that you have to share a room. So we don't have single room occupancy. You have to share a room. Sorry, I'm still here. I just probably sound very far away. Try and shout a bit more. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. So my little pudding. Hang on, I'm back. Oh, I've forgotten now that the other one was. Okay, my little pudding is 190 grams roughly, and this one is over 200 grams. So just to give you an idea of what goes into a pudding. It's probably, if you had a proper Christmas pudding that size, it would be a few kilos, but it would, yeah, it would be very, very naughty to eat a whole pudding like that. Anyway, that's basically all of it now. Remember, the comments in both the YouTube tutorial and on Facebook on Thursday will count towards you entering into our giveaway competition to win a £15 gift voucher. So make sure that you are that you have commented. I know you have, but there's still time, a few minutes. Just get your comment in there. What do you like about Christmas? What's tradition for you? So do tell us about that. So happy with that. Look at that. That's so nice. And that's what it's all about. It's just enjoying what you've made and enjoying the journey. I got rid of quite a lot of wool, that like bits of wool, lots of bits of ends of yarn that I got rid of. And what comes out? A beautiful pudding. Perfect. And I hope you enjoy it too. Share your puddings with us, everyone a maker. And I hope that you all have a great rest of the week. And I shall see you very, very soon. Bye.